What I am trying to make is a frame or a rack to hold the insides of a Wurlitzer model 500, model 600 jukebox. Model 600 jukebox. Essentially hold it in midair so we can work on it without being interfered by the cabinet. So what I did, I went to a bicycle recycling place. I bought a whole bunch of old bicycle frames that they're going to throw away, and I chopped them up. I get some top tubes that will be for the legs for the frame. I got some more tubes here. That will be the top of the frame, which are these tubes, and I'm creating the flat bars or the rails that the shelf that the assembly is mounted on will sit on, just like it sits on shelves in the cabinet of the jukebox itself. Now, as far as I know, this type of thing has never been attempted before. The original cabinet's made out of wood, and the rails are made out of wood. I'm hoping that 1/8 inch mild steel, along with the chromoly steel tubing, will be enough to hold the mechanics of the jukebox, which weigh close to 100 pounds. So this is going to be an experiment, but also a leap in faith. Fortunately, if it fails, nobody would get hurt. It would just be we'll lose a wonderful vintage jukebox. So here we go, just bear with me. I'm going to try to do some welding and grinding and stuff like that, but you're welcome to watch, and I'll try to explain as I go along. Right now, I'm going to attempt to make one of the rails. These are with 2 pieces of mild steel that I found in the scrap pile at my own shop. What I plan to do is that I'm going to make this thing so that when we're done with the work and restoring the jukebox, I can chop this back up and reuse the metal for its original purpose, which is for my metal art sculpture. So here we go. So, to show you what I've done, I did 3 welds to hold the extension onto the flange. The unit will sit on this shelf. This will eventually be welded to the pipe, or to the bicycle tube like this. And there will be a weld here, and I will have backings like so to keep the unit from going over the other edge of the shelf. Now what's very important, I forgot to mention it, what's very important with this project is I want to make it in such a way that the metal can be reused. The purpose of the project is to make a repair and restoration to the jukebox, so there's no reason for this project to exist once the jukebox is running. And it's very critical for me to be able to reuse this metal because there potentially could be an extremely important project coming up that may or may not happen any time, and I may be called to make some jewelry, metal jewelry, with very little notice for the purpose of attending a very formal alumni gathering at my private high school at a place that insists on formal dress. And I like to push the limits, and I'm going to make some bling jewelry using this metal, glass engraving, clear plastic clothing, and fiber optics to show Tabor Academy and the St. Francis Yacht Club where formality can go. So on with the project. I'm going to be doing what's called TIG welding, or gas tungsten arc welding. It's a form of welding where the torch is not consumable. It's a tungsten torch, I will feed the filler material by hand. So I'm going to make 3 welds, opposite the 3 welds I just made on the other side. You need to do welding on both sides of the metal, otherwise the weld can fail if you're applying pressure on the side opposite the side where the weld is. But here the weld's going to be on both sides, and hopefully there'll be enough to withstand the pressure of the weight of the shelf of the jukebox machinery. So here we go. Okay folks, we're done welding the platform for each of the flanges. So if you look at each one of these, the mechanics will be resting on this platform. So what we're going to do now is add some backs so that the shelf on which the mechanics are on will not accidentally be pushed too far and cause the other side to fall off of the edge of the opposite flange. So we're going to weld some backs like this on each one of these. Okay, now I've got the rails are done, the panel or the platform with the jukebox mechanics will be sitting here and here. So this will form the 2 sides on which the platform sits, just like inside the jukebox. Now these will rest on 2 lengths of bicycle tubing that I managed to get from a bicycle shop that was ready to recycle them, and they're going to be welded like this. Okay, where we left off yesterday, we completed the shelf units that support the mechanics. Now we have to take the vertical legs and weld them on so we create kind of like a table. Now, we're welding this is the top of each of these shell flanges, so we will be welding the legs to the bottom, which means we'll be welding the legs to the bicycle tubing itself. We're not going to touch any of the Okay, now we've got the legs welded onto the platforms. Here are the 2 of them. And essentially it will look something like this, where the jukebox mechanics will be resting on these, and these need to be held up, otherwise obviously we'll collapse. So I'm going to provide some sort of footing for these. They cannot be just welded together because they need to be I need to be able to slide them back and forth, because we may need to work on more than one jukebox and they're not all the same. So we'll need to be able to move these back and forth this way. So the next step is I'm going to weld a base plate to each one of these. We put one of them aside. I'm going to take a piece of 1/8 inch thick stainless steel, place the frame onto it. Now that things have cooled off, I've taken the liberty to remove the original copper welding plate from the table, because that would have been too small to do the next step for this project. As you can see right now, we now have the 2 stands, each one consisting of the shelf on which the mechanism sits, the vertical supporting tubes, and then the base. And you can see the 4 stainless steel knives welded to each of the base to provide some stability. However, notice that although they're stable this way, moving back and forth, they're not very stable or sturdy this way because of the flexibility of the knives. Also, these are completely separate. Okay, they're not attached to each other. So if we're going to take the jukebox mechanism and try to put it on the stand right now, there's a chance that while maneuvering it, one of these may get pushed aside and it would no longer be under the edge of the platform that has the jukebox mechanics. So we need a means at which to be able to slide these back and forth, but set a distance and then somehow lock them down. You know, so they're fixed at a certain distance and they're a little bit more stable in this direction. So an idea that I have is to create a mechanism where we have angle iron coming out of one end, of one set, of one shell, and tubing, square tubing or angle iron, if I have enough, coming out of the other one, so that they would overlap. We can move these back and forth, and once we're settled with the distance, we would clamp, using a C-clamp similar to this, the angle iron to each other on each side. Therefore, we'll have a square frame at the bottom that would hopefully hold these rigid enough so we can maneuver the jukebox mechanism on top of this. Okay, I'm now finished with the final welding. So you can see each of the frames has a box tube and an angle iron, and they're on opposites, so that when you bring the frames together, the box goes into the angle iron and you can slide it back and forth. So once you get it set, you take a C-clamp, do something like this, that one, and we're going to find another one. Clamp them together, and we have pretty good stability. So I think right now we're done.